Welcome everybody, this is Zorays Khalid. I am the CEO of Zorays Solar Pakistan, which is also known as Zorays SMC Private Limited. So I've been asked by fellow young students to actually give them a retrospect of my entrepreneurial journey so far. Without further ado, uh, I'll give you a retrospect of how I perceived things in the initial stages of my startup and how now and what were the motivating factors that led into starting this company. So I had been fortunate enough to find exclusive endorsements from my alumni who profoundly hired me even before graduating. So that was the triggering point that led me into believe in myself. Uh, at that time, I was working with Anycon, which is a multi-million dollar company with its reach spread across the US, the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and the Philippines, and you can name particularly any of the Gulf countries, especially in Pakistan. So, at during those times, I had this fervor in me to learn and adapt to the situations within the given resources I have had. I had to complete proof of concepts for various experiential hardware designing, which also integrated some kind of software solutions. That led me into believing myself that yes, if I could achieve this for someone else, I could have it reiterated at a later point in time. I could develop on the same grounds. I can do the same kind of project management that I was taken through. So yes, that led me into believing that I can be my own boss. So while I was growing up, I always have had my father as my hero. He was doing his job at the governmental level really well, performing upbeat, serving as much as he's served as much as five different top tier organizations of the government of Pakistan and be as a scientist, of course. And that led me into believing that the people management is something which comes with authority, and authority has its own kind of limitations. So once he was going to superannuate as he did, uh, we were of the fact to upkeep with the lifestyles that we had managed to herald all these years. There has to be some kind of a solution so I can sustain for my parents, for myself, the same kind of amenities that we had. We have to keep up with the pace of the society we were in. So my parents, relatives, and close friends had already been entrepreneurial in ambitions, which were not limited to from designing special clothes as far as my mother's rule comes, and sending them abroad for a few quick bucks. And you believe you me that these were the motivation factors that led me of course have the right kind of ego to lower myself at times in front of the clients that were there in the early days of the startup. My father, he himself, mashallah, at the time of his superannuation, we decided to launch this company, and this endeavor is now the success of this endeavor is now greatly banking on his shoulders. The way he motivated me to um, uh, pursue this full-time entrepreneurial job. Uh, in contrast to very terrific offers that I have had while serving at Bowl Network. The perks were sublime. They were phenomenal. Yet he actually let me start my own company, and with a very limited authorized capital and cash flows in hand, we begin to multiply it to many folds. So my role model, of course, would be the cognition. It's so the civilization, the Islamic civilization, then became in itself. It has many heroes. So I got the opportunity to read about Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, and also the key achievements of Hazrat Umar anhu, which made me believe in myself as Hazrat Ali being a very young leader of Muslims from the day one of Islam, and Hazrat Umar being a very steadfast and staunch advocate of fiqh. I realized that the business is going to be, it's doable because most of the Muslim leaders were young at those during those days of the early advent of Islam, and at the same time, Islam allows for both the profit and loss and has a Sharia compliant to the to trade and business. So, Sharia compliant rules gave me a fervor that okay, even if I'm going to fail, it's because it's written in the book. It's the book. So at the time of the startup, I had a few role models, not to name all of them, but one of them being Mr. Faisal, who also is the co-founder of Anycon, which hired me at during the early entry-level career time. I was occupied with these guys, so they became my role models automatically. My job was experience was good enough, as I've already described. In the hindsight, what I perceived was that a success needs perseverance, and it has to go a certain bit of time, length in time to achieve the end goal. So I had to remain steadfast, and this is something which I really got from the experiences of Mr. Faisal. In particular, um, I didn't have any marketing or sales experience at first, but here comes the twist. So I was once pitching to one of the very renowned consumer um, appliances giant in Pakistan, and I shouldn't be shy in naming Higher Pakistan. I was at one of their owners' home. I was doing their design work for the solarization. They had already bought the solar, and they were inspired that I was not greedy enough to pitch my own solution, rather to play with the kind of resources we had all together, and that was the triggering point where they offered me an assistant product manager job at Hire Pakistan. Its subsidiary actually called Enviro. It was a new brand at that time. They lacked an electronic hardware design engineer who could actually do the market research and maybe improvise on the key technical features of the product, so it became extraordinary from the rest of the product which was available in the market. And under those circumstances, I became interested more realistically in doing the product management, and I also realized that entrepreneurship is the eventual solution. So during this tenure of 1 year and 2 months, maybe I was with Hire Pakistan on a contractual job, which gave me enough leverage to learn about the key retail principles, the wholesaling process, the distribution lines, the marketing channels. And this was something which really gave me the right kind of experience to know that I cannot do good in product unless I develop some kind of supply chain and inventory and have ample and heaps amount of marketing budgets. And that's why I came back into the services industry, which was primarily pre running under the name of Zorays, so Pakistan. And during those times as well, I wasn't engaged in with Zorays, so Pakistan. It was in the custody of my father lately. Yet, once I came back, uh, I had already decided that job is no more for me. So, uh, the other personal requirements that were very endangering to my upkeeping with the pace I had, or the perks I was enjoying at High Pakistan, was more of emotional cognizance, because uh, once you have a great job in Pakistan, it's take, automatically thought of as being providing enough for me to get myself engaged and hooked up in an emotional relationship. But once I was coming back into the startup thing, it was quite a phenomenal ride for me, and that it had its own consequences, which were really disappointing. So my goals were to bring about the lifestyle needs, to bring a work-life balance. So I started blogging about it mostly. So if I need to learn about anything, I start writing on it. So before writing, one has to do the research. So to coherently put this, I have started a blog which is particularly aiming at all the am- ambitious entrepreneurs like you guys who are watching this video, the students who are motivated, even if it's their semester project, to know the lows and highs of entrepreneurship. So we developed this one beautiful CSR project of our own, which we call as Alpha Software Technology Park blog. It's a social media advertising blog, and at the same time, we try to keep up with the kind of investments that come from the sponsors, and we are actually plunging in our own money to bring you the best advice through that platform. And so the work-life balance is now shifted in a in a balance where I am doing extracurricular activities which I love to do otherwise as well. So um, the opportunity was there, always there. One has to cite it. Um, so how could what is the most critical element in finding the right opportunity is to be self-aware, that do I have that kind of guts to be able to deliver when it matters the most. My mantra would be to organize and reorganize after failures, and maybe to have the self-righteousness to be able to question oneself. So this was my uh, criterion to to reach a point where we call where I can call myself successful. The market was already mature. It was getting saturated with a lot of abuse of technology. So up till now, I haven't said a word about my startup. It's like 29 different cities that we have served in the solar solution market. So there, the market was very concentrated in regional pockets. So there are a lot of heaps of businesses, so-called big giant businesses with heaps of amounts of marketing budgets and staff, but they what they lack is the the to incorporate the cultural diversity in themselves, to be able to to allow and to be flexible enough to absorb different opinions in themselves, so that is why they restrain themselves to a particular pocket or a region. Maybe if that's a big company from Lahore, it will stay doing projects in Lahore. So we have mashallah reached out to 19 different districts across Pakistan, and 9 of them are in Balochistan. So this was